Good morning, Meeting House Church. All right, I always feel bad because the energy in the room is like excited and people are talking, and then I'm like, stop talking, listen to me. But I promise you'll have plenty of opportunities to keep talking and to keep having conversations. My name is Andrew Zhao. I'm one of the pastors here at Meeting House Church. Welcome to the alternative service. If this is your first time here, welcome. We're very excited. If this is your first time here, folks who have been here a lot, say hi. Get to know them. Let them know who you are. Today's theme is faith and peace. As always, we like to kind of ease into our theme. You'll hear from some different voices today, but we also want to hear from your voice as well. So, people are so excited. People are so excited. So, our kind of icebreaker intro questions for today are, what have you learned from society, maybe culture, is the path to peace? So maybe like in general, what have you heard is like, this is what you need to do if you want to have peace. This is how you can attain that. And then question 2, what does peace mean and or look like to you? All right, so these are a couple of interactive questions. You can sit and reflect on it. We encourage you to turn to a neighbor, find someone, and discuss your answers as well. And we will get started in about 7 minutes.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome. It's great to see you all. I'm Leah, Emerging Generations Associate here at Meeting House Church. Good morning to everyone online joining us. We're so excited to be here with you. Some of us might feel a little sad. Summer feels like it's coming to an end. Some of us might feel excited for fall. But we just want to accept and welcome all of the feelings, and we're exactly where we're at together today. If you've been joining us on our Faith and series, today we are continuing that with Faith and Peace. And I can tell you, yesterday I went on this crazy adventure with some high schoolers and adult leaders kayaking, and I left with scrapes all over my legs. And, it was this crazy adventure, and I thought we were like whitewater rafting, essentially. However, I thought about that theme, faith and peace, which yesterday I was like, that did not feel peaceful. That was not like a peaceful thing. Like usually I'm like, oh, you float on a kayak and it's just like kind of nice. And this was a different experience, but looking back on yesterday, I saw students helping each other, adults helping each other, pulling the tip kayaks out, draining them out together, just encouraging each other. No one's attitude ever went sour. There was some form of peace and goodness among us throughout this journey. And I just look back and I think all of us from that day are like, we are closer together because of this. So I'm not telling you that just to say I'm tired today, but also we welcome you if you're tired. We welcome you if you've had a chaos, but we are here to find peace among the chaos. And we're excited to do that together today. Also, you might see on your table some paper, some art things. That'll come in later. And then also this sheet of prayers generated. That was from our service last week of kind of an exercise we did of Mark Patrick led us through coming up with some prayers. And so if you were here last week, these are all the prayers that were turned in, generated together. You may take one of those. There's more on the back table as well. And if you're joining us online, there's also a PDF of a service guide you can find in the YouTube description there. And I think that's all I have today. We're excited. Welcome the band with me.
Blowing the breeze. Everything I want is just downstream. Everything between my ears, just a dream. I never stay still, I'm always in motion. Flying in a tin can, hanging by a shoestring. Sitting on a plastic throne, living like a king. Stuck in a dream.
Okay, if there are any kids in the room, you can come up here and join me for our God's Garden dismissal song. Ooh. You can sneak over a little more if you want. Eleanor. I think we have everyone up here, so whenever the band is ready to sing, start.
Come, oh come, come to the garden. Gather round, come without fear. Known by name, here in God's garden. All are welcome here. Everyone, come, oh come to the garden. Gather round, come without fear. Known by name, here in God's garden. All are welcome here.
Thank you, band. Okay, so kids, on the count of 3, really loudly, we're going to say hi, church. So 1, 2, 3. Hi, church. And then church, really loudly back on the count of 3. Say have fun, kids. So 1, 2, 3.
Have fun, kids.
Okay, so God's Garden Elementary can head out the back, and then preschool, we can head out the side door.
Oh, no. I think it
Bye, kids. Have so much fun. All right, it's definitely hard to follow up the cutest moment of the service. Now you gotta look at this guy. So as we get into talking more about faith and peace, and my mind goes to there's a lot of different types of peace, right? Personal peace for yourself, relational peace, peace in our society. It also makes me think about like peace practices. What can you do for yourself? What can you do in a relationship? What can you do as far as how you show up in society? And something I was thinking about, reflecting on, was when I have conversations with my father. My father is not religious. I would say he'd probably identify as agnostic. And when I became a Christian in high school, I remember he was very supportive of it. He was like, I'm glad you have that community. I'm glad you're like learning about morality and all that. And I think for him, a lot of times the point of religion is comfort or like peace of mind. Like for him, he's like, oh yeah, religion is good because people can feel at ease about what happens when they die, and they know what's going to happen in the end. And to him, that's like the core of religion. And I remember I think when I was younger and more zealous, I'd push him more on that concept. But yeah, I don't know. Now it's a little more just like less emotional conversations about it, more connecting and more reflective. But it did make me think about that as far as like this intersection between faith and peace, right? I think most people think positively, strive for peace, want that. Most of us have experienced the lack of peace, turmoil, conflict, tension. So I definitely want to give some space where we can breathe in, think about how we thought about peace, how we strive for peace. Just kind of a fun anecdote. When I was in college, I remember this was like a go-to exercise for me. When college got really stressful, or if I just felt like a lot was going on in my personal life, I had these giant like Bose headphones, and I would just like sit in my like dorm room or like the house I lived in, and I would just Google image Fields of Gold because it calmed me. And then I would just listen to Sting's Fields of Gold on repeat. Like not even because the lyrics really like spoke to me, more just like the feel of the song and the mood it put me in. Like it slowed my breathing. I felt like some of the stresses go away, and it just put me in this mindset of like, okay, that was like very tangible like a feeling of peace, and now I could take that next step. You know, what am I experiencing? What am I feeling? You know, what's going on? So I don't know if you have that. I don't know if that resonates with anybody, or if you're like, that's out there. But some questions for you right now. For you at your table, feel free to like connect with another table as well. But for you, like, what is the goal of peace? What are some practices you have in your own life to strive towards peace? And then the overarching theme for today, what is the intersection between faith and peace? So spend some minutes doing that, and then we will carry on. So our verse that's meant to ground our theme for today is from James 3:13 through 18. I'll read it right now. Who is wise and knowledgeable among you? Show by your good life that your works are done with gentleness born of wisdom. But if you have bitter envy and selfish ambition in your hearts, do not be arrogant and lie about the truth. This is not wisdom that comes down from above, but is earthly, unspiritual, devilish. For where there is envy and selfish ambition, there will also be disorder and wickedness of every kind. But the wisdom from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, willing to yield, full of mercy and good fruits, without a trace of partiality or hypocrisy. And the fruit of righteousness is sown in peace by those who make peace. Let me pray before we get started. God, we thank you for this morning. I know for me personally, just with the summertime and having, some weekends away with family, it gives me an opportunity to step back into this space with some distance between times. And honestly, it's just, I'm thankful and I'm grateful for the people in this room, for the people in our community, for the opportunities we can have to reflect and grow, encourage one another, challenge one another, learn from another, and just try to be a faith community that shows up in ways that embody your love, honor you. We're always thankful for these moments. In your Son's name we pray. Amen. So we've been in James for a while for most summer, and it's very pragmatic, it's very practical. James is very tangible, which I like. And when I first was reflecting on this passage from James, I think right away, like my quick summary was, well, it's about intention, it's about motivation, right? Like a great litmus test is not just the fruits of what you do and your works in your life, but also why are you doing it? What are you seeking to gain? What are you hoping for? And in a way, if you're talking about motivation and intention, it's just naturally subjective, right? Like you can have conversations in different angles, and it's contextual. There's details not everyone knows about. So to me, the natural next step is if it's subjective, then you got to talk about it. Then you got to connect with the people around you, reflect, have them kind of speak into your life. Ask for feedback, ask for support. And then all the while, there's this transcendence from God, like because it's subjective, because it's contextual, there's a lot of room for God to show up, for things that are outside of our own control, for things that are outside of our own intentions. So that's kind of the backdrop of how we're approaching faith and peace. All of us have our own experiences. We've heard messaging about what brings peace, and we've had our own experiences about peace. So it being a Communal Voice Sunday, we do have a guest today that I will be interviewing. I very much love these Sundays. One, I was going to say I talk less, but then I do feel like I've been talking a lot this morning. So hopefully from here on out, I'll be talking less. But we just get to hear from folks in our community, which I really love. I think that's one of the values we're trying to embody. Like, there's so much we can learn from each other. It's not just the pastors or the staff just speaking from the pulpit. We don't even have a pulpit in here, but we have things we want to share, and we want to hear from one another. So, without further ado, this gentleman, his name is Steve Dornbach. Steve Dornbach has been an educator for decades. Jeff kindly reminded me that before he was an educator, he was actually the youth pastor at St. Pat's. Is that the correct title? Youth leader, youth director, youth of the emerging generations. That wasn't around then. But I'll let Steve tell more about himself. So let's put our hands together and welcome Steve Dornbach, everybody. Hi. I figured I could. This is gonna break. That's fine. It'll be funny. It's not stable, but that's fine. Okay, is yours stable?
I think I'm pretty good. Yeah.
Okay, I gave you the good one. I felt like I could introduce, like, talk about your family and some of your experience, but really, that's more of me talking. So let's have you talk. Just kind of a quick snapshot of who you are, maybe some of your work, some places you've lived, your family, stuff
Sure.
like that.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I'm Steve Dornbach, and I'm here with my lovely wife Amy. Amy's right there. Our son George works here at Meeting House. He works with his children's in the children's ministry. Our daughter Lucy. George is 26. Lucy's 25. By default, I feel like I don't know if I'm the parent or grandparent of Georgie the puppet as well. So we've kind of taken a kinship and love and ownership of Georgie the puppet. Great joy and some sadness, through the series of Georgie as well. So So as you said, I'm an educator, a teacher, been a high school teacher. Most recently now I'm a junior high teacher as well. I've been doing that for about 30 years. Yes, I was, before my teaching days, I was the youth director at St. Patrick's Church and had the opportunity to be able to work with Jeff back when he was youth minister, and the amazing Steve Bobo Burns, and we shared Colorado ski trips and President's Day weekend broomball tournaments and all kinds of stuff. So it's been amazing to be able to reconnect and as well. And I moved to Edina my junior year in high school and got involved with youth ministry that I really hadn't been involved with before, and was invited to come to Sunday night PFs, Pilgrim Fellowship here at then Colonial and here at Meeting House. And it was just an amazing way for me to meet just incredible people. So when I visit George after the service, and there's a big mural on the wall down there. That's about that generation when I was here, and I see some familiar faces and some friends from that time. And it was an amazing experience and a really informative part of my life as well. But yeah, so my wife Amy and I, we've been educators for about 30 years. I taught at Edina High School for about 10 years, and then we went overseas. We taught internationally at some international schools in Tokyo, Japan for 6 years, and Seoul, South Korea for 3 years. We were most recently, Amy and I, in Bulgaria. Sofia, Bulgaria, as well. So, so we've had some unique opportunities to kind of live and work and teach in a wide range of cultures and societies.
Yeah, so sneak peek, we will dive deeper into your experience overseas. We'll dive deeper into your experience as an educator, but maybe lay the groundwork for as you were growing up, as you were entering your career, what were some common messaging you heard or you believed would lead to peace? Like, what did peace mean? How did you attain it?
Yeah, I think just kind of this a very standard idea of just kind of success, right? Kind of always forward moving, education. Getting good grades, going to college, getting a good job, going to church on Sundays, being faithful, do those, kind of a almost checklist, right? Like, if I really think about growing up, not that it was like a negative thing, that was just it just felt like that was probably the reality, right? Like, if you do these certain things, then good things will happen. You will kind of be at peace as well, yeah.
And then one of the things we really focused on when you and I touched base beforehand was, as an educator, having some tension between, and there's a few layers here, like peace for yourself, right? How can you be the most authentic version of yourself as an educator? Peace in how you do your job, like knowing what's best for your students, or having that belief, that strong conviction, and then wrestling that with being a good employee, right? Like, and balancing, like having that piece of like, maybe administration wants you to do a certain thing. So what have you found to be helpful as you navigate all those different layers? Yeah,
like in any area, any profession, right? There are always those tensions, right? I have my students in front of me, and there's a relationship there. I have my principal, I have my director, school board, parents, right? All these different kind of constituents or these different groups. And I think I found early on that my best way to peace was to be my authentic self, right? So I'm not someone different, outside of the classroom than I am in the classroom. But also, like, I can't necessarily kind of satisfy every single one. I really learned that I had to find out who is it that I really need to satisfy. And as a classroom teacher, it's my students, right? And I think I mentioned, going back to long ago, seeing the movie in the theaters, Gladiator, with Russell Crowe, and I think that was Russell Crowe's first movie, right? And there was a line in there about young Caesar who was trying to win over Rome and so forth, and somebody told him, if you win the mob, you win Rome, right? And so I remember that, and that was kind of in my early days of teaching. I remember thinking, like who's my mob? And my mob are my students, right? That's my students. If I win my students, they go home and say, class is awesome, Mr. Novak's great, I love being there, I'm learning a lot, and so forth, and which then satisfies my principal and director and so forth. So for me, that to kind of satisfy, to your question, the tension between all those varying groups is just to know, who is it that I really need to serve, who is it that I really need to win over, and it's my students. When I focus on that, then everything else works out.
So I'm curious, like, if you're attempting to win over the mob, win over your students, that formula for peace, which involves success, maybe having the credentials, having education, yada, 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 did having those things help win over the mob? Or what did help win over the mob?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, what does that, like, for me, for my experience, and you and I have talked about this before too, but I think it's not even that. It's not even that kind of stuff, right? Like credentials and even experience. I can start school tomorrow, right? The kids in the classroom tomorrow, and I can say, I've been doing this for 30 years. Well, my 7th graders tomorrow aren't really going to care. They're just going to say, wow, you're old. And which kids really grapple with that sometimes, right? Like last year we were talking about something in class, and some students said, oh, you have a cat? And I said, yeah, well, how old is he? I said, he's 17, and these were 9th graders, and they're 15 years old, and all of a sudden, and Johnny will be 18 pretty soon in a few weeks, and some of these kids went, wait a second, your cat's older than we are, right? And they couldn't believe it. I'm like, I know, it's everything's getting old, but I think it's really, like, it's not all those other things, it's, I don't know, I think lack of self isn't that's not the word I'm looking for. It's like a humility, right? Like just knowing, like, in order to win them over, they need to know I need to be humble enough for them to know, and vulnerable enough for them to know my true self, and to know that I'm engaging in this with them because I want to, because I care about them, because I want what's best for them. So I think that's really what humility is. I think really kind of at the heart of what then kind of leads to the ability to get to a peace, if that makes sense.
That does make sense. Do you want to elaborate on, in your experience, are there other attributes, other characteristics that you have found in your own life that lead more towards peace? You've mentioned humility. You've mentioned authenticity. Are there other key ingredients?
Yeah. Well, I think it always starts with that, but also just I don't know. I've always been kind of the phrase kind of the know thyself, right, has always kind of resonated with me as well. Just in the sense of sometimes I catch myself either wanting something or wanting more or feeling like I should do more or be more, something, right, kind of that, because that's also kind of going back to the first question about how have I learned these things, or what did I grow up with. I feel like that's the world we live in, right? We live in a world, for better or for worse, that says we always don't have enough, right? I mean, we always need something more. We're either we should be fearful, something hurts. I mean, just look at commercials, right? I mean, we should call all those 800 numbers and get free samples of everything, right? I mean, there's always something, right, that we need that needs to be satisfied. So just kind of, again, that taking stock in myself, in falling back on my faith, knowing what exists. We were talking at our table. Lori was talking about just finding the goodness and finding peace in those things around us, right? And so just always trying to pull myself back into those things to know that like, no, this is good, right? This brings me peace, and being okay with that.
Yeah, I like that. Like being grounded in not just self-awareness, but the awareness of your values and who you are. And yeah,
Yep.
I like that. Let's bounce to you and your family have spent many years abroad.
Yep.
You mentioned Bulgaria, South Korea, Japan. I know. What was that experience like? Because I imagine for most folks, if you've traveling is very exciting. But at the same time, once you get there and you look around, you might not know
Right.
the language, you might
Right.
not know where to go, you might not know the culture. So that's a situation where you're lacking a lot of peace.
Yep.
So how did you didn't leave? You didn't leave right away. You spent a lot of time there. So
Right.
what helped you
Yeah.
get acclimated, find that peace?
Yeah, all those things, right? Our kids were in the 4th and 5th grade when we moved overseas. They both graduated from high school. So we were there that whole time of them growing up, and yeah, right, all those things. Didn't know the language, couldn't read most of the signs, and I think what really brought us peace was faith, right? So and faith in a lot of different forms, but ultimately like faith in just humanity and people, just feeling like, okay, someone's going to help us here, right? Somebody's going to look out for us. There is a way to figure this out. We'll trust that somebody will. We might just say, anything. Bring us anything on the menu, right? And they'll bring us like something that they think like, not wild and crazy and so forth. Like, we'll get these people, but like something that they know would be good. And when we just really kind of put ourselves out there, right, as this little family of 4 walking down the street and just looking confused and so forth, literally someone always helped us, right? Super humbling to be able to do that and to just see that goodness. And one thing living in both Japan and Korea, there were a couple different aspects when we talk about humility. And that's probably where a lot of that idea came from for me anyhow, was like they're just cultures that rely on that, right? Like the Japanese are so humble, right? They're so demure. And if you have any kind of an exchange with someone, when you're finished, right, you bow. And there isn't like a firm handshake or kind of something or other. It's a bow, right? And you bow back, and then they'll bow, and then you bow back, and then they'll bow, right? And you can't out bow a Japanese person, right? Like you will be bowing down the street, and you do. And it's funny. We were staying at this guest house. I was with a friend. We were doing putting some stuff together for a program for school, and the couple came out and said goodbye to us, and we started driving away. And my friend, who had been living there for a long time, he was like, "Watch this. Just keep looking in the rearview mirror." And literally, this woman just kept doing that until she would stay out there and bowed until she could no longer see our vehicle, right? And she was. I'm like, oh my goodness, right? And in Korea, this idea of there's this really neat communal. We found that we loved Korean barbecue. Not because it's so fantastic, but you sit at a round table, right? And the food's there, and everybody's working the food together, and you're serving each other. You never pour your own. The glasses are always really small, right? Which at first it's like, can I get a 32-ounce cup for mine? I'm used to that, But these little glasses, and whatever it is you're drinking, you never pour it yourself at the table, right? It's just expected that when I see your glass lower, I'm just going to reach over and just fill it for you. So there's this really neat kind of communal, kind of humble sense of how we're eating and we eat together, but we do that we do that together. So yeah, those things we found not really knowing the language and so forth, and really having to experience things pantomiming a lot and just kind of smiling and nodding, and we learned a lot of those things. Those are probably our biggest takeaways.
That's really great. Thanks for sharing that. And I have seen that in George as I interact with him. He's very like, I'm not that much older than him, but he very much is like, you're my elder, and
Yep.
here's all the ways I need to respect you.
Well, right, and that idea, like for like Korean kids, even if you're a day older, like if you meet a Korean person, if we would meet a Korean person, one of the first questions they'll ask you is how old you are, right? Because it's important. If you are older, even by a day, you are the elder, right? So you defer a thing, right? And there's a humility in that, and not like respect me, I'm old. Like it's just known, like that's what we do, right? And there's a chain in that, and it's quite nice. Yeah.
And for those of us who are older, to our counterparts, there's an adjustment. At least for me.
Yeah.
It's like,
right. Yep.
I don't want to own that. I'm like, no, man. I'm like you. I'm like,
yeah. Yep.
same age as you,
Yep.
but I'm not. So, 2 dots I want to connect here.
Yep.
A lot of what you learned from living abroad, and just whether it's in the culture or just like how they view each other, like whether it's eating collaboratively or just like being really adamant about honoring the people around you. Kind of shift that mindset to here and now. One of the topics we had that I really appreciated was just like, especially in today's polarized society, not a shocker to anyone. How do you find that? How do you balance peace for yourself, which we said, like knowing yourself, trying to be your authentic self,
Yep.
Maybe humbling yourself, and balancing that with like wanting what's best for others and like wanting peace for others. And really, too far the other way is you just minimize yourself. You're not being authentic. You're humbling yourself so far to the point where it's probably harmful to yourself.
Right.
But then you don't want to be so strong-willed where you're like, what I need at the expense of others.
Right.
So really, like, how do we navigate like balancing peace for yourself and peace for others, especially in today's context?
Yeah, and I see it in the classroom, right? I have the past few years as well, and I see it in society, and there's those things, so badly I want to say, like, but I want it to be this way, and why do people think this, and why can't it be? But just knowing also that we need tension, right? We need a push-pull. We need a healthy tension. And when things come up in the classroom, I try to set the classroom and try to, convince and engage students to believe in that idea that, like, no, we have to have that, right? And we can do that respectfully, and we can do that, there's a process we can use to honor and to accept and to understand, right? I think understanding is a key thing, where everybody is at, what their needs are. And we talked about it at our table earlier as well, about this idea that, like, peace. Yeah, everybody wants peace, right? But everybody's peace is going to be a little bit different in terms of what they need as well. So, I try to model that, in the classroom around, like, yeah, great, bring that idea. Let's understand those, and let's acknowledge those, and let's work towards understanding. Is really what it is. Like, it can't be one or the other, right? So it's going to have to be all. And how can we, again, the peace is going to come if we can at least just acknowledge and accept and understand, and not then shut it down and shy away from it. Great, let's put it on the table, right? Let's look at it. Let's hold it up. Because the more things that we can't discuss and talk about, then the less healthy we are in a relationship or as an organization or anything, right? And so I think my faith helps in that. But yeah, that's kind of the key is to be able to learn how to acknowledge all of those things and work with those together.
Yeah, and I think that cues us really well. We're kind of ending the end of our time here, so kind of final word. Again, I think this cues it up really well. The question is essentially, what's your hope for this place? For Meeting House Church, as we seek to be a faith community that embodies peace, and thinking about who we are, right? We're an intergenerational church. We have this great blend of folks who've been here for decades, folks who've been here for one day, right? And then we've got our service here and our service in the Meeting House, and those are pretty different. But it's an eclectic group. And so you're going to have different perspectives, different ways that people experience peace. So what is your hope for our faith community?
Wow, that's a big one. So Amy and I have been super impressed with Meeting House, right? Since we've been attending, just top to bottom, left to right, just every person we've interacted with, right, has been authentic and welcoming, and we feel something here, and all those things that you said, and we really, really like being a part of this, and similar to a classroom, that I work in every day. I think a place like Meeting House has my hope is that it's the kind of place, and it feels like this is what Meeting House is working towards to us, but it's the kind of place that can be that example, right? That like, I always say that like in schools to colleagues and so forth, like if we can't make this happen in our classrooms, then it can't happen, right? And if we can't make it happen in a place like Meeting House, then it probably can't happen, right? So we need to model, we need to struggle with and have that healthy tension and grapple with, but then at the end still be at peace with the love that we feel and share for each other as human beings. And I feel like it's an awesome responsibility, I think, for an organization to be able to walk down that road and to know that they have that possibility within them. And so that's my hope for Meeting House, and I think I believe, Amy and I believe it feels like to us like it's the kind of place that can do that. No pressure.
Sign me up.
Yeah,
I'm in.
right. I know.
Everything you said.
Right, yeah.
Somebody write that down so we can make sure we do that. Okay, Steve, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.
It's been awesome.
Let's give it up for Steve Dornbach, everybody.
Thanks.
There we are. Thank you again, Steve. That was great. A couple things from that I think are, when we look at peace, right? What I heard Steve say a lot was, how do I hold this for myself and how do I hold this for others? And so I think as we reflect, even, like, I feel like humility is this big aspect of peace. When we're able to humble ourselves, it's not just us not bragging about something. It's us really coming to terms with something and feeling like, maybe I wasn't wrong, or maybe I was wrong about that, right? Maybe I wasn't listening. Maybe I wasn't practicing something on in my own space. And when we are humbled in those spaces, we're able to have eyes to see people differently and hear their stories. And I think when we approach people to have eyes to see them and know them and hear them, there creates this foundation of peace that we are able to relate to each other, because we all know, like, we have our own stories, we have our own backgrounds, and we all need humility in that. But I think, justice is really a result of this rich peace. And I think it's because justice is when people are seen and they're heard. So as we reflect today on this message, on this topic, I asked Genevieve to sing this song. It's called A Different Kind of World by Maggie Rogers, and it's just some beautiful words. And I wanted us to hold some space to practice peace for ourselves. So really, this is just kind of what we do with music in general in this service, but reflect and listen. But I also threw some paper and some different crayons and stuff on your table. If you don't have them, you can grab them from some other tables too. And this isn't like, please produce some really good art. This is like space for you to just listen. You could like literally draw lines and just let whatever you are holding kind of come out onto the paper and let it be. And this is just a practice for us to reflect and hold some space for us to hold peace for yourself, to hold some humility for yourself. But yeah, that's really all it is. So either listen, really reflect on the words, or pick up some crayons and just draw whatever comes out.
that you've ever done for me is to help me take my life less seriously. It's only life after all. Well, darkness has a hunger that's insatiable, and lightness has a call that's hard to hear. I wrap my fear around me like a blanket. I sailed my ship of safety till I sank it. I'm crawling on your shores. I went to the doctor, I went to the mountains, I looked to the children, I drank from the fountains. There's more than one answer to these questions, pointing me in a crooked line. And the less I seek my source, the closer I am to find. The closer I am to find. I went to see the doctor of philosophy with a poster of Rasputin and a beard down to his knee. He never did marry or see a big great movie. He pointed my performance. He said he could see through me. I spent 4 years prostrate to the higher mind. Got my paper and I was free. I went to the doctor, I went to the mountains, I looked to the children, I drank from the fountains. There's more than one answer to these questions, pointing me in a crooked line. And the less I seek my source, the closer I am to find. The closer I am to find. I stopped by at the bar at 3 a.m. Seek solace in a bottle or possibly a friend. I woke up with a headache like my head against a board, twice as cloudy as I'd been the night before. I went in seeking clarity. I went to the doctor, I went to the mountains, I looked to the children, I drank from the fountains. We go to the doctor, we go to the mountains, we look to the children, we drink from the fountains. We go to the Bible, we go through the workout, we read up on revival, we stand up for the lookout. There's more than one answer to these questions, pointing me in a crooked line. And the less I seek my source, the closer I am to find. Closer I am to find. Closer I am to
All right. Again, I always feel like I have to follow up really great things. And I get really self-conscious. But we do have more great things. All right. Before we get to announcements, we have an interview. So I want to invite Michelle Moser and Pete Welch, and we'll be discussing generosity and the tiny house, which many of you guys know about.
Good morning. A really quick interview. I'm Michelle from GMAT, Generosity Ministry Action Team, and we find and celebrate generosity. We've got a good, generous person here today I'm going to ask 3 questions to. This is Pete Welch, and he is a champion of the homeless. Pete, what initiated your passion for using your talents to help the homeless?
Volunteerism here at Meeting House has got a pretty long history. Back in the 80s, a mission pastor, Greg Snell, started us volunteering with Habitat for Humanity. That went for a lot of years. I know some of you people were there. And as a remodeling contractor, I got asked to help. That's kind of the key for me, is being asked and then show up. But anyway, there was another members, John and Karen Troyer, some years ago. They were Make Old Things New is their organization. John's no longer with us, but Karen still is. Back then, John would be taking food and gloves, socks. John took these to homeless camps. That's what I remember as my first segue to homelessness. Then my oldest daughter works for the People's Laundry. They do laundry for people who live in those homeless camps. Well, our own meeting house with our own Jim Eaton through the Blessing Initiative that you all put together, we work with Avivo Village in downtown Minneapolis. Those things, the homelessness and housing, came together a couple of years ago here with Settled building tiny houses. And there's one in the parking lot right now being built.
What kinds of generosity have you seen from other people who also share time and talent to improve the lives of our homeless neighbors?
I've seen both skilled and novice people show up and then give them themselves, their time, their treasure, with the belief that it may help someone else.
And lastly, please describe the satisfaction you get from sharing your time and talent.
It's very humbling when you realize it's not about you.
Thank you, Pete. Humble and generous.
And Pete, correct me if I'm wrong, there's still slots, right? If folks want to sign up to help out with the tiny house? There's many slots. Okay, so, I would agree with what Pete said. I know a lot of folks have already put in a lot of time and energy. I know children's ministry with their day camp last week, they spent some time out there. The confirmands, middle schoolers, they all spent some time out there, the high schoolers. So, yeah, sign up. Announcement time. So to continue just with all the different ways we can give back, care for our community, care for our neighbors, there are a lot of folks in our community who've been helping out with our refugee neighbors. There's a few families our church supports. And one of the thoughts we had was, like, how do we help people learn more about what's helpful? Like how to show up. Obviously, giving resources, huge help, but maybe understanding more of their situation, more of their context. So on September 7th, we have a refugee support meeting that's happening in the Hearth Room at 6:30. There's going to be various professionals, even some of our refugee friends, just letting us know more, helping folks just understand all the complexities behind being a refugee in a new place. We were just talking with Steve about the cross-cultural experience of showing up somewhere new and relying and having faith in humanity, faith that God will show up and help out. So that's on the 7th. For the next couple of months, September, October, we are having an art show in our hallways. We're trying to brighten up the hallways and show off some of the talent in our community. Before I give more details, I think we have a video to play.
Look at these walls. They're so bland and boring. What we need is some art to liven them up.
This fall, we are talking about how church takes all of us. All of us matter. We bring all of our whole selves to church.
So, to celebrate all of us, we are doing a church-wide art show where you can bring in your own art to display.
Paintings, drawings, photography. We are going to highlight all of your art. Good art, questionable art. We won't judge.
All ages are invited to participate and bring in art by Labor Day so we can hang it for display on Kickoff Sunday.
Reach out to Nicole for any questions. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. That's the first time I've seen that video. That's really good. So I think the key takeaway is that there's a lot of room for mediums, art mediums, as well as interpretations of that theme of all of us. So, yeah, if you want, what you literally just drew at your tables, just put it in Nicole's mailbox. But again, the deadline is September 5th. Just you could drop it off in the church office just through the attention to Nicole. Speaking of September, Kickoff Sunday is coming up. So that's September 11th. Yes, excited. I like it. Kickoff Sunday is just an opportunity for us to officially say we are pumped. Obviously, things are happening every week, but this is our official go time. School year starting, different rhythms for families, and we just want to make sure, as a faith community, we're celebrating that transition together. So we have a. Okay, this is great. It's like a sports carnival, tailgate style lunch. There's going to be an interactive game show. There's going to be a store where you can buy some new Meeting House Church merch. That rhymes. And most importantly, a dunk tank where you can dunk some of your pastors. Did you say yes to this already? I vaguely remember saying yes.
I don't think we did say yes.
I don't know. I think she just took it and ran with it. Okay. The theme for Kickoff Sunday is Get in the Game. So, come on out, bring your family, bring your friends. Also, during that time, we were just talking to Pete Welch. Oh, thank you. That's a beautiful necklace. We're going to have a silent auction with some furniture that are underused around the building, and all the proceeds will go to helping us finish the tiny house. All right, so that's just what's coming up. As always, just with generosity, we try to be a generous community with all that we have. So obviously, resources, our time, our energy, financial giving, all that contributes to the life of this church. Many ways to give. You guys know what the slide looked like. There it is. Online, text, envelope, all that works. So wonderful being together with everyone this morning. Hope you have a great week, and God bless.